It's my great honor to introduce now our second keynote speaker, Baroness Joanna Shields. She's a woman of firsts, the UK's First Lady of Technology, the first American-born woman to serve as a life peer in the House of Lords, and the UK's first ever Minister for Internet Safety and Security, as well as the foundress of We Protect, one of our Congress partners. Her years of experience in the tech industry and her life mission to use technology to protect children from exploitation in the digital world have contributed immensely to the organization of this Congress. Baroness Shields, it's now my pleasure to invite you to speak.
Your Eminence, Excellencies, friends and child advocates, we gather here at the Pontifical Gregorian University, this great learning institution, under a burden of tremendous responsibility. We are here at the invitation of Father Hans Zollner, President of the world-leading Center for Child Protection, to examine the state of children, their dignity and safety in the emerging digital world, a world which is only now coming into view. It is indeed a remarkable time to be alive. Technology empowers and enriches us in ways we never thought imaginable. Yet whilst it offers us endless opportunities, possibilities, technology is also transforming childhood beyond recognition. For more than a quarter century, we've been traveling at warp speed into this unknown future. We've been extolling the virtues of the digital revolution that would democratize access to information, connect us, and help us all understand each other better. But when the negative aspects began to be revealed, when the cracks began to show, we assured ourselves that this was just the price we had to pay for progress. But it was worth it. And whilst acknowledging that darkness too inhabited this brave new world, we were blinded by the light. Years from now, when history writes the chapter entitled The Digital Age, will it celebrate the immense benefits that technology has delivered and the great human progress that's followed? Or will it be a requiem of regret for childhood lost? As it stands today, my fear is that history will judge us harshly unless we act now. The next generations will rightfully ask us why we didn't do more, why we didn't act decisively, and why we waited so long before we came together to find solutions. But this is not a time to despair. We have within our grasp the opportunity to shape the future, and we must act. What you witnessed in the opening video is a glimpse into the minds of 7 young people, what they are thinking, feeling, and experiencing, what life is really like for them as it becomes increasingly and predominantly digital. If these examples seem extreme to you, I assure you that they are not. They represent real-life examples with devastating consequences that are experienced by young people all over the world. If you've never been a victim of online crime or abuse, or know someone who has been, these stories might seem hard to relate to. But it becomes real when you meet the mother of a daughter who was so distraught from incessant cyberbullying that she committed suicide. It becomes real when you're sitting with the parents of a toddler who was abducted and murdered by a pedophile who only just a few hours before had been searching and looking at child sexual abuse images online which were freely available. It becomes real when you meet the mother whose teenage son, the same age as your own, fell under the spell of the so-called Islamic State online, traveled to Syria to fight, and was killed. And it becomes real when you meet the parents whose daughter, after being exposed to online self-harm groups, is in the hospital again because she simply cannot stop hurting herself. I admit that I am a web utopian. I believe that connectivity and humanity would make us a better society. But whilst we've all fixated on the wonderful things that the internet would do, we never thought about the things that it would undo. How it would fundamentally transform childhood in just one generation. When the first generation of digital natives came of age, we were amazed at how quickly they felt comfortable on the internet, how they learned to swipe objects on their smartphones and tablets. Then we scratched our heads as they shared too much with perfect strangers. But we said to ourselves, no need to be alarmed. After all, each new medium ushers in a wave of new behaviors, and our parents complained about how much time we spent in front of the television. We thought our kids would be all right. Well, their kids are not all right, because the thing that they're carrying in their pockets, the thing they sleep with under their pillows, isn't just a new medium like television was. It's a medium that subsumes every other medium. This generation's life experience has been profoundly shaped by the smartphone and the rise of social media. And if you chart the rise of the data that's been collected about children's growth since the 1960s, their behaviors and attitudes, you start to see something really alarming. This so-called I generation is sleeping less, they're going out less, they're dating less, they're postponing behaviors that for decades marked the transition to adulthood. Social media gives them the illusion of being connected with friends at their fingertips, whereas in reality, the true connection they crave, one that resonates deeply enough to nourish and support them, is not accessible within the virtual space. Nevertheless, they try. They're addicted. They go back again and again, sometimes every free minute, but with little satisfaction. And when they're alone, they have a fear of missing out. The shift in how young people spend their time isn't neutral, it's negative. An increase in screen time has been directly correlated with unhappiness. In fact, research shows after 2 hours of screen time, children are at higher risk of suicide and depression. There's a common belief in internet circles that the products we love and use every day are inherently good. And this belief comes from a good place. I know that because I work side by side with some of the greatest minds in the technology industry over 25 years. Without exception, they are principled and well-meaning people. They care about the future and they want to make it a better place for everyone. But evil has access to all the same technology tools that we do. And when the scale of these products reaches half the world's population, you don't just connect with good people, you connect with bad people too. Smartphones, social media, and communications apps are one size fits all. And there's no specific provision for the unique needs of young people who are not ready to take on the responsibilities of their actions or to understand the realities of the human condition they are exposed to when connected to the internet. If a child's first lesson in sexual education is a pornographic video, then this becomes their reference point. These videos don't simply depict two adults having sex. They depict loveless, misogynistic interactions, replete with verbal and physical abuse. And when you think about the allure of this material, the addictive power it has, and the unlimited supply online, you can imagine the impact on a young person just discovering his or her sexuality. Pornographers aren't the only ones who have the tools to create lasting impressions on our children. The accessibility and reach of dangerous fringe views online are manipulating the minds of young people. These attitudes are facilitated and reinforced algorithmically. Young people, like all of us, naturally self-select what they want to read online and engage with. And in so doing, they get trapped in filter bubbles that reinforce bias, prejudice, and misinformation in a dangerous cycle. Young people are open and susceptible to influences online where they are not monitored or supervised. Today, too many children are groomed for sexual abuse online by people they've never met and would never have come in contact if it weren't for the internet. They are coerced into producing sexually explicit images of themselves, and their offenders connect with other offenders online. They share disgusting tactics, strategies, and their devastating acts of abuse. They pay to watch the live streaming of children being sexually abused all over the world, using anonymous access and cryptocurrency mechanisms to obfuscate their identities and their crimes. Society cannot turn a blind eye. This must stop. We must understand that what is happening right now is beyond anything we've ever witnessed. Some of our esteemed colleagues here this week have said that the internet is the greatest social experiment in history. They are not wrong. But when the experiment unfolds in front of our eyes, and when its subjects are our children, we cannot simply be spectators. My own realization began over a decade ago. The year was 2006, and I was president of Bebo, one of the earliest social networks. With tens of millions of young people on our platform, we started seeing an epidemic of cases of child grooming. Pedophiles under the cover of anonymity interacting with unsuspecting young people. And I myself began to see things in a different light. I had no idea the potential harms to our children that would be facilitated by the products that we created. And once I saw it, I could not unsee it. We began working diligently with the UK Child Exploitation and Online Protection Center, the FBI, Interpol, the U.S. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, to address incidents one by one. But over time, the stream became a torrent, and we realized that this problem was not confined to one network, one product. It was a global phenomenon, a problem with no boundaries and no clear lines of responsibility for solving it. Governments and law enforcement back then struggled too, as perpetrators were located beyond their borders, and crime-fighting infrastructures were deeply rooted in a local physical response. Industry was challenged too, reverting to a crisis management construct and addressing incidents as they happened versus being proactive. In 2013, then Prime Minister David Cameron asked me to lead a US-UK technology task force that would focus on taking immediate and long-lasting steps to curtail online child sexual exploitation. Working together with the best and brightest minds in the technology industry to tackle these unsolvable problems that we faced in partnership, which was a first, a radically different approach. An approach that would see government, law enforcement, and private sector experts working together to eliminate the practices that were eroding the very foundations of what every child deserves, to be safe. Within months, we saw, as a result of this cooperation, the art of the possible started to take shape. We were able to achieve a number of breakthrough results. Microsoft's PhotoDNA technology was adopted industry-wide and completely transformed our ability to find and remove images of child sexual abuse wherever they appear on the web. The Internet Watch Foundation took on the challenge of being the intermediary and clearinghouse of digital hashes, performing a vital service that it continues to provide today to industry, government, and law enforcement. Google began the process of altering its search algorithms to prevent the child sexual abuse images and videos from appearing in search results. to remove them at scale, and to break the links to peer-to-peer networks that hosted this illegal material. Companies like Visa and MasterCard and other financial services providers work to eradicate the purchase of child abuse imagery through mainstream payment systems. And an innovative new non-governmental organization called Thorn was founded and launched in California to develop a comprehensive technology response to the heinous crimes of child exploitation and trafficking. These initiatives and many others have made great progress in the fight to stop online abuse, but the tools and tactics of criminals are not static. They are constantly morphing and changing, and thus the technology solution, no matter how sophisticated, must continue to evolve in response to the threats. This fight has become a life mission for me. In 2014, inspired by the results achieved by the task force, I founded an organization called We Protect. What underpins the strategy of We Protect is that it takes all of us to fight this kind of evil online. To eradicate online child sexual exploitation requires a multi-stakeholder approach. We leverage the power of technology to rescue victims, thwart criminals, and bring the perpetrators to justice. With the support of Prime Minister Theresa May and the leaders of over 70 governments, law enforcement, tech companies, and NGOs, we are making progress, but we will not stop until every child can use the internet without fear, intimidation, abuse, or exploitation. In 2016, We Protect merged with the Global Alliance Against Child Sexual Abuse Online, led by the U.S. Justice Department and the EU Commission. Today, the combined entity, the We Protect Global Alliance, represents a unified movement with a mission to empower everyone with the responsibility to protect children online. And supported by a commitment of £50 million from the Government of the United Kingdom, We Protect launched the Fund to End Violence Against Children in partnership with UNICEF and in support of 16.2 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which were ratified by all member states with a target to end abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and all forms of violence and torture of children. We Protect demonstrates the vital importance of a coalition of the willing to work together to protect children in the digital world. But another vital aspect of the protection is to ensure their rights are protected as they grow up digital citizens. From the first day a child is born, they begin leaving a digital footprint. Their medical history, their school records, their friendships, interests, and moods are all collected and analyzed, and sometimes even monetized. As adults, we are aware of the trade-offs when it comes to our personal information. When we click accept on online terms and conditions, we may not read all the text, but we know we're giving up something. But children do not. The unique needs of children must be paramount in the development of online products and services. This cannot be an afterthought. That is why I'm a firm believer, supporter, and defender of the 5 Rights Framework, which takes the existing rights of young people guaranteed by the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and updates them for the digital age. These rights include the right to remove, the right to know, the right to safety and support, the right to informed and conscious choice, and the right to digital literacy. These are non-negotiable and must be ensured and protected. Internet platforms today have unprecedented insights into our thoughts, opinions, emotions, and intentions. In many cases, it seems that the algorithms that power the suggestions that we see sometimes know more about us than we know about ourselves. For instance, if a young person is depressed or suicidal, then chances are that a social network or communications app that they are using will have the tools to recognize this. Using natural language processing and machine learning to detect patterns in speech and usage might signal the state of mind or intentions of a child, and it might indicate that they need help. Facebook, Instagram, and Google have all stated publicly that they have these capabilities to recognize depression and suicidal tendencies, and many other potentially dangerous conditions. That being true, the question for all of us is if such powers exist to measure the moods and emotional state of children, to predict those at risk, shouldn't we be more proactive and collaborative in what we do with this knowledge? Extraordinary times like these call for extraordinary measures. We need a new era of cooperation and shared responsibility that puts the needs of children first. We need to scale our response, not incrementally, but exponentially, because change is the only constant. As challenging as this new wave of digital technologies has been, it is only the beginning. In Yuval Noah Harari's bestseller, Homo Deus, he talks about a post-human world where technology enhances human capabilities beyond natural limits to create a new form of human. Today, we already have wearable devices, altered and augmented reality, biomedical implantables, robots, and soon neural lace. All of these developments come together to help us design a better, faster, stronger, healthier, and more malleable version of ourselves. It all sounds like science fiction, but I assure you it is closer than you think. But humans aren't the only malleable component in the future. Technology, too, is changing in response to whatever stimuli or data is presented. Specifically, artificial intelligence has, in the past few years, begun to evolve in ways we cannot always anticipate. So much so that a few weeks ago, over 100 global experts wrote to the United Nations, urging it to protect us from the development of autonomous weapons. Their open letter read, "We do not have long to act. Once this Pandora's box is open, it will be hard to close." Now, some experts considered this intervention scaremongering, but there is no denying the legitimacy of calling the world's attention to these potential risks. So when you take a step change in the evolution of engineering and science, and you couple it with increasing symbiosis, with our own increasing symbiosis with technology, you get a very uncertain future. A future in which the essence of humanity, our moral compass, our ethics, could be undermined. Note that I say could be undermined. The future is not fixed, and that is why we come together for this Congress. The cultural critic Neil Postman said in the late 1990s that once a technology is admitted in society, it plays out its hand. It does what it is designed to do. When we admit a new technology to our culture, we must do so with our eyes wide open. As we embrace this brave new world, the dignity, safety, and health of our children cannot be an afterthought. It must be our first thought. Pope Francis, in his recent TED Talk, stated that the only future worth building includes everyone. I agree wholeheartedly. I would only add that the only future worth building is one that also protects everyone. There are times in life when we act as a global community, and that's what defines us. This is one of those times. Every young life damaged as a result of digital revolution is a tragedy. And when these lives are taken together, it's a collective failure. Though these problems are immense, I believe we can make progress. But doing so requires a new kind of thinking, a new kind of approach. Because what we are experiencing has not happened before in history. There are no true parallels. We must unite in our resolve. The progress we make together will determine the future of over 1 billion children who suffer abuse and violence in their everyday lives. The Child Dignity in the Digital World Congress offers us an unprecedented opportunity to work together to gain new wisdom and transform this newly found knowledge into tangible action. Let's embrace this opportunity wholeheartedly, because there's one question that we all have to answer. And that question is, when our time is up, have we done enough? Our answer must be yes. We owe it to ourselves, but we especially owe it to our children. Thank you.